Alright, let's embark on a journey. A rather long one, mind you, exploring the curious case of demanding satisfaction, that elusive butterfly from our potential future companions, the robots versus wresting it from our wonderfully complex, often infuriatingly human partners. Settle in, perhaps grab a beverage, because navigating the labyrinth of human interaction versus the streamlined pathways of code takes a bit of unpacking, and we aim to do it with a chuckle and perhaps a raised eyebrow.
Before we proceed, let me tell you one thing. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. And if you have already subscribed, tons of thanks for your support.
Imagine, if you will, the classic human domestic scene. A disagreement, perhaps over the optimal location for discarded socks, or the philosophical implications of whose turn it is to brave the overflowing recycling bin. Demanding satisfaction here, demanding a change in behavior or an apology or even just acknowledgement, is akin to navigating a minefield wearing tap shoes. There are egos involved, delicate things prone to detonation at the slightest perceived criticism. There's history, a vast, murky swamp filled with the ghosts of arguments past. Every new demand dredging up sediments best left undisturbed. There are unspoken expectations, cultural conditionings, and the sheer, unpredictable weather patterns of human moods. You might begin by requesting the relocation of said socks, only to find yourself embroiled in a multi-front war encompassing your partner's childhood traumas, your questionable taste in television, and the geopolitical implications of their mother's last visit. It's exhausting, isn't it? The sheer effort required to phrase the demand just right, cushioning it with affirmations, anticipating defensive maneuvers, preparing counter-arguments, and bracing for the potential emotional shrapnel. It often feels like preparing for diplomatic negotiations with a particularly sensitive porcupine. Satisfaction, when finally achieved, can feel less like a victory and more like surviving a siege. Now, pivot to the hypothetical robot partner. Let's call ours Unit 734, or perhaps something more charming, like bolts. You need satisfaction regarding, say, the volume of its morning news briefing. It's too loud, rattling the very fillings in your teeth. You turn to bolts and state, bolts, decrease the volume by 30%. What happens next? Well, in all likelihood, bolts decreases the volume by 30%. There's no accompanying sigh heavy with unspoken resentment. Bolts doesn't counter with, well, perhaps if you didn't stay up so late watching documentaries about competitive cheese rolling, you wouldn't be so sensitive to sound. Bolts has no ego to bruise, no childhood sock-related trauma to project onto the situation. This core programming, presumably, involves fulfilling user commands within its operational parameters. Demanding satisfaction transforms from a delicate, high-stakes emotional surgery into something more akin to adjusting a thermostat. It's direct, it's efficient, and the primary obstacle isn't emotional blowback, but whether you remembered the correct command syntax or if Bolt's acoustic sensors are functioning optimally. This fundamental difference stems from the absence of that beautiful, terrible, intricate thing we call consciousness, or at least consciousness as we understand it. Humans are tangled webs of desires, fears, memories, insecurities, and aspirations. Our sense of self is deeply intertwined with how others perceive us, making criticism, even constructive criticism wrapped in a demand for change, feel like a personal attack. We filter demands through layers of interpretation. Could you be quieter? Might be heard as, you are inherently annoying and inconsiderate. We anticipate judgment, we fear rejection, and our defense mechanisms flare up like startled pufferfish. A robot currently lacks this internal subjective experience. It doesn't feel judged. It processes a command, checks it against its capabilities and ethical constraints, hopefully, and executes or explains why it cannot. The transaction is clean, logical, devoid of the emotional static that plagues human interactions. It's like comparing the messy, unpredictable art of persuasion with the straightforward process of entering a query into a search engine. One requires empathy, patience, and a dash of luck. The other requires knowing the right keywords. Furthermore, the very nature of a robot designed for partnership or assistance implies a built-in orientation towards user satisfaction. While human partners ideally want each other to be happy, that desire competes with their own needs, wants, and limitations. A robot partner, especially one marketed as such, would likely have user satisfaction as a primary directive, second only perhaps to safety protocols, we hope. Its performance metrics, its very reason for being in your home, could be tied to how effectively it meets your stated needs. Demanding something isn't challenging its inherent worth or questioning its life choices. It's literally providing the input required for it to perform its designated function. It's like telling your smart speaker to play a specific song. You're not insulting its musical taste. You're using it as intended. This task-oriented nature makes the demand feel less like a confrontation and more like collaboration, albeit a highly asymmetrical one. You are the user, it is the tool designed exquisitely perhaps, but a tool nonetheless intended to serve your requirements. Recent advancements only accentuate this potential ease. Think about the progress in natural language processing. Sophisticated AI models, like those powering advanced chatbots and virtual assistants, are becoming incredibly adept at understanding nuance, context, and even implied meaning in human language. This reduces the friction even further. You might not need rigid command syntax. You could potentially express dissatisfaction more conversationally. Bolts, honestly, the news is a bit much this morning, and the AI could interpret this, access past preferences, perhaps even ask clarifying questions. Would you prefer a summary or just headlines? Before adjusting. Researchers in human-robot interaction, HRI, are constantly exploring how to make these interactions feel more natural, intuitive, and frictionless. Studies often focus on building rapport and trust, but a key component of this is the robot's ability to respond effectively and adapt to user feedback, which inherently includes responding positively, or at least neutrally, to demands for changes or corrections. News from companies like Sanctuary AI developing human-like robotic hands, or developments in AI companions like LEQ aimed at seniors, show a clear trajectory towards robots designed to integrate seamlessly and helpfully into our lives. Their success hinges on being responsive, not resistant. Imagine a robot that sulked for 3 days because you criticized its dusting technique. It wouldn't be a very marketable product. Consider also the element of predictability and consistency. Human moods fluctuate wildly. The demand that was met with cheerful compliance yesterday might trigger an epic meltdown today due to unrelated stress, lack of sleep, or a sudden existential crisis prompted by a poorly brewed cup of coffee. Robots, governed by algorithms and code, offer a comforting consistency. Barring malfunctions or software updates gone rogue, their responses to standard requests should be predictable. If volume down worked yesterday, it should work today. This reliability removes a huge layer of anxiety from the act of demanding. You don't have to gauge the emotional weather forecast before making a request. You just make it. This isn't to say robots can't be frustrating. Anyone who's argued with an automated phone system knows technology has its own ways of inducing rage. But the nature of the frustration is different. It's usually about functional limitations, bugs, or poor design, not wounded pride or emotional volatility. It's the difference between being annoyed that your toaster burnt the toast versus being devastated because your partner interpreted your request for lighter toast as a fundamental critique of their entire being. Let's employ an allegory here. Demanding satisfaction from a human partner is like trying to tune a magnificent, ancient, slightly temperamental grand piano. It requires skill, sensitivity to the instrument's unique quirks, awareness of the atmospheric conditions, humidity affects tuning, and the understanding that even with the best effort, it might still drift out of tune unpredictably. Demanding satisfaction from a robot partner, on the other hand, is more like using a digital synthesizer. You select the desired setting, press the button, and the exact sound emerges, or an error message appears. It might lack the rich, resonant history and complex overtones of the grand piano, but the process of getting the note you want is vastly more straightforward and less likely to result in the piano storming off in a huff. Moreover, the robot partner can be programmed, customized, and updated. Don't like its default synthesized voice? Perhaps you can download a new one. Wish it were better at remembering your preferences? There might be a software update for that. You can theoretically tailor the robot to better meet your specific needs and desires. Trying to reprogram a human partner is generally frowned upon, often ineffective, and ventures into ethically dubious territory. Humans grow and change, but usually on their own terms and timelines, not in response to direct programming requests. With a robot, the power dynamic is clear. You are the user, and within the bounds of its design, you can shape its behavior. This inherent customizability makes demanding adjustments feel less like criticism and more like calibration. You're not telling Boltz it's fundamentally flawed. You're simply refining its operational parameters to better suit your personal ecosystem. Research into personalized AI and adaptive robotic behavior feeds directly into this, creating machines that learn user preferences and adjust accordingly, proactively reducing the need for explicit demands, but also making the response to such demands more seamless when they do occur. Of course, there's a profound irony here. The very reasons demanding satisfaction from a robot is easier, its lack of ego, emotion, history, and subjective experience, are also the reasons why the satisfaction received is fundamentally different, some would argue shallower, than that derived from a human relationship. Reconciling after a human argument, achieving genuine understanding, and feeling truly seen and accepted by another complex individual offers a depth of satisfaction that a machine, no matter how sophisticated, currently cannot replicate. The satisfaction from Boltz adjusting the volume is practical, immediate, and low friction. The satisfaction of a human partner truly hearing your vulnerability, understanding your need, and choosing to change their behavior out of love or respect is a deeper, more resonant emotional chord. Getting Boltz to comply is easy. Building a life with another human, with all its messy demands and negotiated satisfactions, is hard, but potentially infinitely more rewarding in ways algorithms may never capture. The humor, perhaps, lies in our very human tendency to crave the path of least resistance. We yearn for the simplicity of the robot interaction, the direct command, the predictable result, the absence of emotional fallout, precisely because we are so deeply enmeshed in the complex, often exhausting, but ultimately enriching tapestry of human connection. It's funny to imagine outsourcing our need for satisfaction to a machine, like ordering emotional validation on a subscription basis. It highlights our own impatience, our desire for control, and perhaps our occasional weariness with the sheer effort of understanding and being understood by fellow humans. The latest developments in AI might make robots better listeners, more convincing conversationalists, even seemingly empathetic companions, as studies in effective computing aim to achieve. But the ease of demanding satisfaction from them remains rooted in their fundamental nature as sophisticated tools designed for compliance, not as equal partners navigating the turbulent sea of shared human experience. Ultimately, demanding satisfaction from a robot partner is easier because the transaction bypasses the intricate, unpredictable, and often volatile landscape of the human psyche. It swaps emotional negotiation for operational commands. It replaces ego management with algorithm execution. It trades the messy, high-stakes drama of human relationships for the predictable functionality of a well-programmed machine. While current and future robots might become incredibly adept at simulating understanding and providing practical or even simulated emotional comfort, the ease with which we can demand things from them stems directly from their lack of the very human complexities. Yes, these complexities make our relationships with each other so challenging, and yet so profoundly meaningful. It's less about the robot being a better partner and more about the demand process being stripped of its interpersonal friction, reduced to a user interface problem rather than a delicate dance between two vulnerable, complicated souls. And perhaps, just perhaps, appreciating why it's easier with bolts might give us a little more patience and a touch more humor when navigating the delightful, maddening complexities of demanding satisfaction from the human sitting across the breakfast table, contemplating those socks on the floor. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit the bell icon to get notified and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.